Hello everyone and welcome to another Ask GMBN Tech, where if you use the hashtag Ask GMBN Tech, we'll answer all of your questions hopefully. But we've got some bangers today, Owen.
Yeah, we have. They're solid.
Should we dive right in, you reckon?
I think we should.
Okay, question numero uno. If you do not have a bike stand, how do you adjust your gears like you did on your recent video, buddy? Especially the limit screws with the way he did.
Well,
Tricky.
It is tricky. It is tricky without a bike stand. I would suggest, saving up and getting a bike stand, which is not the immediately best answer.
Tricky.
Finding something low-hanging that you can...
A branch?
A branch is
I've
good.
used tree branches and things like that before.
Friends are good.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, phone a friend. They can lift the back of the bike up, then you can do your indexing. Exactly.
Best way to do it. I think, simple, best way to do it. I mean, I have seen people sort of jerry-rig various broom handles across worktops and sort of, some kind of horizontal pole that you can essentially just hang your bike off of. But bike stand is best. Otherwise, get a friend, right?
Yeah, exactly. Great. We've got another awesome question here from Matt. He asks, hashtag Ask GMBN Tech. He's got an enduro bike that spends equal amount of time going up fire roads, tech climbs, and down gnarly trails and some flow. And he'd like to know kind of whether a Float X2 Vivid RockShox Vivid or the Float X versus the Super Deluxe Ultimate would be a better option for his bike. He's got a Mega Tower, very nice bike, which has got a Super Deluxe RockShox Super Deluxe Select Plus. Bit of a mouthful. But he's struggling to get it to feel good on both the climbs and the descents. So he's kind of deciding whether he gets a new shock or not. He's got Fox 38s on the front.
Right, so first things first, the Select Plus rear shock does have a lockout lever on it, which I'm sure you're aware of, but if you ain't, get that thing locked off on climbs to begin with. Hopefully that'll sort of eliminate some bobbing. If you haven't sort of noticed it down there, I'm pretty sure that shock does have it. So get that thing locked out first. If it's still, or you're still finding the same troubles, there's a few things, right, Owen? So first up, comparing that shock you've currently got to the Float X or the X2, well, the Float X and the Select Plus or Super Deluxe Select Plus, very similar shocks. So I don't think you're going to notice a lot of difference if you were to swap that shock out for that one. So that's sort of then we're looking at the X2 side of things, right?
Or the Vivid. Or
the Vivid. But he kind of says he's kind of torn between the X and the X2 at the moment.
He does.
So I think if we narrow in on that X2, the Mega Tower is a big old gnarly bike for doing those gnarly descents you said about. So you kind of want the shock to match. Now there's a couple of reasons for this. Bigger air volume. We don't know your riding style or your weight, unfortunately, but a bigger air volume is going to have more room for manoeuvre. So if you're really lightweight, you can drop the pressure down that little bit lower. If you're a bigger dude, should we say, you can run a little bit more pressure in there as well. We've also got room for tokens.
Yes.
Okay?
All
right, so bear with us. So you can put various size tokens in that shock, volume spacers to essentially get it to firm up.
Okay, so that's going to change the ramp up of how that shock feels on the trail.
You knows it, buddy. You knows it exactly. So if you're blowing through that travel quite quickly or easily, should we say, you might want to try a volume spacer just to begin with, or larger volume spacers, so it essentially ramps up quicker or firmer as well, so it's not going to bob quite as much. The X2, actually, I should say, does come with a firming lever as well. It doesn't lock out, it doesn't go solid.
I think it ramps up the compression, if I remember rightly. So it's as you said, it doesn't lock it out completely. So you still some movement, you can still get some traction, but it should help it.
Definitely. And last but not least, high and low speed compression. Man, we're going in hard here. So it's got high and low speed compression. So if you did want to tune the low speed compression a little firmer for whilst you're climbing, you can actually do that. And then when you're descending, that high speed compression could be wound all the way open potentially. That's going to be something you have to play around with there. But I mean, if you're after it, the X2 seems like the logical choice, I would say, especially when paired to that 38. And I think you said earlier, it matches as well.
Yeah, it does match, and that's good, I think,
Always. I hope that helps, mate.
Come back with more questions about that. It'd be really good to know which one you go for.
Okay, Owen, next one. So this is from Graham, and he says, following on from your crank length experiment, is it okay to put cranks that are meant for e-bikes on normal mountain bikes? I.e., he wants to put a Shimano FCM 8150 XT crank on his Giant Trance X. It's currently got some SLX cranks, slightly different lengths, but the actual cranks themselves.
I mean, the short answer is no, because the cranks are different. So, yeah.
Right.
I mean, if you're just replacing one side, then maybe. So, it's a convoluted answer. Essentially, a Shimano Holotech crankset is a two-piece. So you have a drive side crank arm with the axle attached, and then you've got a non-drive side. And there's different versions of that. Dub is out there. That's essentially similar. It's a two-piece system from SRAM. Very, different components, but essentially the two components crankset. Okay. On e-bikes, we're going sort of back in time a little bit to three-piece setup.
BMX days.
Indeed.
Gotcha.
So because the axle is powered, that's in the system. We can't really change that, but we can change the crank arms.
Gotcha.
But the crank arms are essentially like two non-drive side Shimano ones.
Of course, I never actually thought about that.
Yeah, no, it's good, isn't it? Yeah. So you could accidentally put the cranks on the wrong way around, but it would be okay. Apart from your pedal threads would be wrong, and you'd put. Anyway, we're getting confused. So essentially, the short answer is no, you can't. Putting shorter cranks on, great idea. I think this has been kind of talked about quite a bit. Giant Trans X, that's long travel, so I think it would welcome a shorter crank.
I think you're definitely right there. I think we looked at shorter cranks on e-bikes specifically, but shorter cranks on normal bikes I did experiment with. I run now a 160.
Oh, wow.
And I'm 6 foot.
Okay.
Interesting. I didn't really think about it like that, how obviously, a normal crankset is a two-piece, axles joined to crank on one side, loose crank on the other. So no is the answer. We
have another question that's been sent into hashtag Ask GMBN Tech.
Yes.
This one's from Paul, and he's asking about if we've got any thoughts on whether mountain bikes, regular acoustic mountain bikes, have got ABS. We're seeing it on e-bikes, and it seems to be a sweet tech to have on a regular acoustic mountain bike. But would the added weight and complexity on a regular acoustic mountain bike sort of outweigh any kind of like benefits? So, what are your thoughts on?
Heck of a question.
Yeah.
I haven't ever seen ABS on a normal mountain bike, we'll call it, mainly because on e-bikes it uses accelerometers from the motor to essentially help with the braking and the amount of force that's required through the brake levers and into the calipers, which you can't do on a normal mountain bike. Do I think it's a good idea on a normal mountain bike? I'm not sold, I'll be honest, personally, because I think we'll lose some feedback sometimes when you want to instantly lock wheels up. Mainly the back wheel, never the front really. But, but you're gonna lose that. I'm sure they'll become adapted to where obviously there are certain settings, and you'll no doubt have an app to tune them obviously to what you want, the amount of power, the firmness, God knows what else. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think on an acoustic bike, I feel like that instant feedback is actually really good. And well, I think it was something that came up in a Magura session, some kind of like tech sharing exercise with the e-bike guys, Steve, Mr. Jones. And Magura were basically saying that actually one of the best ways to help reduce locking up of brakes, which is what ABS is doing, to help give you more control of just versus grabbing them, is actually running a little smaller rotor. So if you're running like a 200, maybe going down to 180 might help you because it sort of reduces that breakaway. But I think I'm like you, I quite like. Well, I don't think we can say skidding, can we? Because skidding isn't trail sustainable. No, it's a bit
losing
naughty.
Traction in a controlled fashion.
Yes, aggressive braking.
Yes, I quite like that.
But you know what,
I'm not going very fast doing it. I'm doing it on kind of cross-country tyres, but it's still fun.
Yeah, but back to your point, I actually know some Enduro World Cup guys who run smaller rotors on the front because they want it to be less grabby.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
okay,
so they actually run a 180 instead of a 200 up front, and they'll still run a 200 back. I also think actually it's a great idea, and in certain applications it is really good. The braking required for a big old heavy e-bike to slow down and controllably is a worthwhile thought. On a mountain bike, not so much, but it's adding more tech and complicated parts. Never a bad thing if done correctly, and it is more weight essentially. So I don't think you'll ever see it on anything trail bike or less, because I think the weight penalty is just not worth it. Okay, this next one's from Anthony, and he says, hello, I have Tetro brakes on my XC bike and I want to clean the piston seals. Is it safe to use a different brand of fluid to clean my seals? The local bike shop only sells Shimano and Finish Line brake fluid. Can I use either of these to clean my brake seals? Thanks.
Good question. Thanks, Anthony. Effectively, yeah, as long as it's a mineral oil, it should be okay. If you put a dot on them, it could all go wrong. From memory, I think Tetro fluid, is available from some online places, so you might be able to get through that source. But from memory, it's very similar to Shimano, I think. So you should be okay using that.
I thought that as long as it was mineral oil, because Magura have their royal blood.
Yep, yeah, they do.
There's a few others out there, but it's essentially mineral oil.
Yeah, I would say, I've mentioned it on a video that I've done recently, but giving your brakes a kind of regular bleed also helps just clean out all the bits of detritus that will have got in the system between cleans. So try that as well.
Cool, we'll book my bike in with you. Thanks, mate.
Brilliant. This one's another good famous name, actually. We've got Mr. Kenobi. Jedi Master. Thank you very much. He's asked, he's installed thicker grips on his bike for better grip, but now he's got a hard time fitting his thumb under the Dior 12-speed SL M100 lever. Can I make the shifter stick out further away from the handlebars, washers or a new bracket, etc.?
Great question. Yes, depending upon how your shifter is essentially mounted to your brake. So there's kind of a band, which is just a separate band to the band that would hold your brake on. So if you have got that, it means you can essentially just slide your shifter left and right dependently. By the sounds of it, it definitely needs to go to the left to give you more clearance. If it's I-spec, that means essentially that your shifter clamps directly to the brake lever underneath there. Now there is adjustment on this, it's just a lot more limited. So have a look, there'll be normally a 3mm, I think it is, on the lever side, which you undo that and then you can hopefully slide it across away from the end of the bar, if you like. That would be my first port of call. Try that. You can also, on that same bolt, once it's undone, rotate it, so underneath the bar as well, right?
Yep.
So you can move it left to right and up and down, we'll call it, back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth.
Back and forth. Yep. So try that. So if your shifter paddle sort of snagging your thumb there, you might be able to push it underneath or pull it up on top and obviously shift it up out the way. Try that first. If not, you might have to look at potentially replacing the shifter pod itself, so you can get the same shifter but get it with the band. That's going to give you way more freedom of movement to put it, well, almost anywhere, right?
Yeah,
apart from where the brake isn't.
The other thing to look at is if it's a bigger grip and it has a flange, maybe you can get away with like trimming the flange a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously some brands, we're not going to recommend cut the grip, but sometimes actually just trimming the grip a little bit might give you a tiny bit more clearance. So, but I think the clamp is the key, as you've said.
I think so, yeah. Just check it out. I-spec means it's mounted essentially directly to the brake lever. A band is, well, a separate band on the shifter body itself. Let us know how you get on. And, well, that's the end, Owen. Sad times. It is, but keep sending your questions to hashtag Ask GMBN Tech, and we'll answer them here. Right, that's it. See you later, everyone.